Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Our guests tonight, Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla in the first half of the show, and in the second half, resigned General Manager of the Metro Rail Transit 3, Attorney Al Vitangcol III.
Now, we're pushing for coal-fired plants not because I'm a coal boy, okay, but because we need base load to partner with basically renewables. 52% in Mindanao is renewable, and that's a bit difficult to manage in a sense. Coal-fired plants are coming in, 500 megawatts. Our problem really is just this year. How do we get through this year? There'll be a lot of screaming. There'll be a lot of blaming. There'll be a lot of everything. But the bottom line is, what we're after, the Department of Energy, is simply trying to extract every possible generation capacity that we have, no matter how small.
In this first segment, Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla joins us. Good evening, Secretary Petilla. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Pia.
Why do you refer to yourself as coal boy?
No, that's
what you're tinatawag sa inyo.
Yes, yan ang sabi ng iba, that I'm pushing for coal. And as I have explained, I'm not pushing for coal, I'm pushing for a good balance. We need base load. We're also pushing for renewable energy, like solar and wind. In fact, 200 megawatts is coming up for wind, and I've increased the quota for solar from 50 to 500. We're waiting ERC approval for that, but we're pushing for renewable, but you cannot really expand renewable if you do not expand baseload.
What do you mean by that?
Translate. Baseload is the power that you need constantly. It's 24 hours, it's running, because the profile of electricity usage in this country is that paggabi, mababa ang demand. When it comes to daytime, especially 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, it's the highest usage. So basically, you need less power on nighttime than on daytime. So base load is the one that runs 24 hours.
Okay.
The peaking plants are the one that run basically on daytime. Then you can shut it off in the evenings.
Okay.
So we need more base load. Renewable are intermittent in a sense. You don't know when they're coming in. It all depends if you have sun, you have wind, if it's dry season or wet season. So you really cannot control the energy coming out of renewables.
Okay, but from other sources, from other kinds of energy?
From diesel, from coal, from geothermal. These are base load plants where we can more or less predict what we're getting out of the plant. In fact, it's on demand. Renewable energies are basically intermittent, and they have to partner with each other. In other words, when there's at nighttime, for example, you can't use solar. If there's no wind, then there has to be something. And that's what we need, the baseload plants.
Okay, but they call you coal boy because the impression you give is that you are more...
The impression that they're getting is that we're promoting coal. Okay, we're promoting basically baseload capacity so that we can also increase the renewable. So we're kind of, we have a mix that we're trying to follow. Although, of course, coal is getting a big part of that mix right now. So we're sitting down right now to see what kind of policy we'll put in, especially because coal is there. But the problem is, if not coal, what do we use? Geothermal, for example. Why not promote geothermal? We are promoting geothermal, but it's finite. In other words, the production that we have right now, the plants that are producing right now is under 2,000 megawatts. The potential in the next 15 years or 20 years is only about 3,000 in total, including the ones that are in place right now. So beyond that, you really can't expand. So you need, and our electricity consumption demand is actually going up. So we need to find some other sources.
Okay. Diesel?
Diesel is going out because that's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
The biggest advantage of coal is it's cheap. You know, ang mga tao sa atin is we complain about lack of electricity, and if we have electricity, we complain about prices. Coal is cheap, but there are issues on health, basically, or environment.
Yes.
For that
Environment,
matter.
yes.
Although the supercritical plants that are coming in are a lot cleaner than the old ones. In fact, sometimes you can't see any smoke coming out of the chimney. In fact, one time I brought my wife and said, "Look at this plant," and then walang lumalabas na usok and said, "They turned it off because you're here." And I said, "No, no, no. Let's look at the meters and everything."
Yeah.
Now we're also looking at gas, but gas is a bit more expensive than coal. And well, it's a bit more expensive right now in terms of the Malampaya gas. To give you an idea, let me run down the cost because it's more concrete if we actually see the cost of each of the resources that we have on a per kilowatt hour basis. Let's start with diesel, the most expensive.
Yeah.
14, bunker fuel 10, and then you have solar 960 or thereabouts. You have wind about 870. Then you have
Sorry, wait. Diesel 14, bunker fuel 10, solar 9.
solar about 960.
Okay.
Wind is about 870.
Okay.
And then you have biomass about 670.
Okay.
And then you have runoff river hydro about almost 6 pesos, 590 or thereabouts. And then you have now gas, which is Malampaya gas, which is what we're using right now, about 5 pesos. And then you have geothermal, about 4 pesos, thereabouts. You have coal, the new coal right now is about 370. And then you have nuclear, about 250.
Wait, these are the costs to produce?
More or less the estimated cost of production for 1 kilowatt hour.
Estimated cost of production for 1 kilowatt hour. You said nuclear is what?
About 250.
250. This is the cheapest to produce. So what do we do about the BNPP? I remember I asked this of you in the sauna last year. You talked about nuclear, no?
Right. What do we do about the BNPP? We need to get approval, basically, of the president, whether we should actually activate this. In a sense, it's been mothballed in a sense for a long time now. We're still
It's
paying.
been hibernating for what, like 30 years?
I don't know how many years, but for a long time. We're still budgeting for that right now.
How much are we spending for that?
From what I can recall from last year, it's about 27 million. And that's just basically it's not really to maintain, but really just to put guards to make sure it's not going to be looted. But it's not that we're replacing parts for that matter.
Yeah, okay.
So BNPP, let me ask you this, Pia, okay, because this is always a question, okay. Do we activate BNPP? Actually, I asked the president and said, I thought there was a report already that said that, it's not viable to run that. So I'm trying to take that report, trying to qualify it, getting some more experts to look at that report and qualify that, because I'm not closing my doors on BNPP. I'll give it a level playing field. But the bottom line here is it has to be acceptable to the public.
And it's not yet acceptable to the public?
Well, for example, when I had a talk with some proponents who want BNPP, I said...
Who are those proponents?
Well, some people who want to operate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sino Mark Cojuangco?
Si Mark din also. I said, baka pwedeng kausapin niyo muna yung mayor, tsaka ang barangay chairman, at tsaka si governor. Because if they don't agree, okay, at the first instant, it'll be... Wala na, strike one na yan kaagad, hindi tayo makaproceed niyan. Work with them while I work on the technical. But going back to the people, there is a risk. Kasi sinasabi natin, there's a risk. There's a risk on everything, okay? Whether it's hydro, whether it's solar, there are downsides, but there are also downsides on BNPP. But people are saying, well, if it's cheap, let's go for it, because our electricity is very expensive. So I asked them, our current electricity in Metro Manila is about 12 pesos. If we run BNPP and let it supply Meralco, how much would you want the price to go down, given that there's a perceived danger on or risk on nuclear power plants?
Less than half.
Less than half.
Pwede ba
Let's
yun?
put it at half, 6 pesos.
Okay.
I did my computation, and I'm not trying to discourage nuclear power plants. I did my computation, and if we run it, it's going to bring down the cost of electricity in Meralco by about 25 to 30 centavos. It's far
Okay.
from your 6 pesos.
Yes, okay.
And why? Because it's 600 megawatts against the total demand of Meralco, which is about 6,000. You blend it in, all the cost, that's what you're looking at. Please also take note that in your bill, the 12 pesos, the generation charge there is about 550.
Okay.
550 to 6 pesos.
Okay.
And then you have transmission cost, you have distribution cost, you have other charges
Yeah,
in your bill.
okay.
So,
So-
generation is only about
So you're
half
saying
of
even
it.
if we do run the BNPP, it's not going to make a very significant dent on our electric bill. I mean, let's say 10,000 pesos electric bill. So that would translate to
God,
What?
I don't know, maybe 200 pesos less.
less 200
Yeah.
pesos lang. Wag na lang. Ganon. No, but so why? So where do we go from here? Wait, are you saying that? So you're studying all of this, but you haven't closed your doors.
We
to
haven't closed our
opening the
doors,
BNPP,
okay.
and the president, you're saying it's up to the president.
I have to convince first of course, the president that it's well worth it, and it's part of my job is to lay out what's in store for the Bataan nuclear power plant. So, but BNPP is just one option. There are other plants. That's why we have coal plants, we have gas-fired plants, we have renewables coming in as well, hydros. Okay, so it's not the only resource that we have.
Yeah.
Of course, in terms of cost, that's basically the lowest,
cheapest.
the cheapest. Although I was just in Germany about a month ago to study renewables, and they're increasing the renewables, and I said, why? More demand? No, it's we're very aggressive because of increasing renewables because we're trying to phase out nuclear power plants.
Okay.
And when I asked them why, of course, this is Germany, it's different in France, they said that yes, it's cheap, although it's getting more expensive to build new power plants now, nuclear power plants, because of the requirements for safety. You have to build more walls now. But one thing they did not take into account is the disposal of the waste, which can also be costly.
Okay.
Take note that basically radioactive materials is they have half-life. In other words, every so many years, their potency is cut down by 50%. So we're talking about probably hundreds of years before you totally consider it as safe.
Okay. We're going to have to take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Still with us is Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla. He'll still be with us when we come back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH on the Solar News Channel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Still with us, Energy Secretary Ikot Petilla. Secretary Petilla, so where does this leave us?
In terms of supply, because there's always two issues on electricity,
Yeah.
supply and
Supply
price.
and price, yes.
Okay, let's talk about supply first. Okay, when people say, anong mangyayari sa atin?
Yeah.
Bakit ang gobyerno hindi nagtatayo ng
Oo,
planta?
or baka next year wala na tayong kuryente.
Oo,
Ganun.
magba-brown out ba tayo next year? Okay. First of all, okay, ang pagtatayo ng planta, when we build plants now, under the IPIRA, under the law, which was about 13 years ago, it's actually left to the private sector to create plants, okay, to come up with power plants. In other words, the government decided at that point, okay, of course I wasn't still around at that point, but the spirit of IPIRA was actually to say that, listen, government was running power plants in the past. It was eating up 25% of budget. That cannot happen forever. Okay, we have to turn this over to more efficient people like private sector. So it's been privatized in a sense. But who buys electricity if they actually build the plants? It's also private sector. Co-ops, Meralco, large customers, they can buy from the plants. So it's actually a commercial arrangement between distribution companies and basically the power plants. Now, ang question na lang, are power plants being built? I mean, ngayon, medyo manipis ang reserve natin, but when is this going to end? Okay, based on the outlook that we have, okay, we have several plants coming in. In fact, by summer of 2015, there's about roughly around a little over 500 megawatts of additional capacity coming in. Our peak demand for summer of this year was about 8,700 megawatts.
Okay.
That will increase to about 9,300 megawatts. So ang 500 is going to be enough, but the reserves are still going to be thin. Okay. But only during summer.
Oh, but aren't there delays in the construction, which could, have a domino effect also?
There are
Eventually,
delays,
diba?
okay, but as you come closer to the deadlines that they set, okay, the dates are becoming more concrete. In other words, if it's 3 years to go, you will see delays. It will stretch or shrink a little bit. But if it's 6 months to go, for example, more or less, okay, that date is kind of definite in a sense. So we're nearing 2015. The plants that we're looking at are basically the ones in Batangas and the ones in Quezon. Okay, this is a total of about 435 megawatts, more or less.
Okay. Yeah. Let me go back very quickly, Secretary, to what you said earlier about the BNPP, that it's all going to be up to President Aquino. What has the President said that will give you a clear idea about how he stands on the BNPP?
Well, I think his major concern is it's going to be safe for the people. Okay, it's going to be acceptable, and we're not putting the country into a nuclear risk, in a sense. After Fukushima, for example, there's a lot of debate whether that's a sensible thing to do at this point,
Okay.
when others are actually reviewing their nuclear policy.
Yeah, oo.
So,
But siguro naman after 30 years, we should get to a point where we should make a decision already. Because we've always delayed making decisions.
That's also
Hindi
my
ba?
point.
So let's make a decision and then decide, what are we going to do with the plant? Are we still going to spend 27 million a year for nothing? Hindi ba?
and that's why we're coming up with a study on this, whether it should be, we should continue with it, or whether we should run it, or we should junk it once and for all.
junk it and scrap it and sell off everything and
Right.
para
And,
tapusin na. I mean, there's too much unfinished business, hindi ba?
yes, that's been
Will there
hanging
be
for
a
a long
decision
time.
made before he steps down from office?
It's,
Shouldn't there be one,
Well,
para at
that's my recommendation. A decision will have to be made, okay, before he steps down. But that's really something that will all depend also on what information we can give him. We're also getting our information from private sector, including those parties interested in running the plant, because there have been unsolicited proposals on this, and we're taking them into account as well.
Yeah, okay. How long will this study take?
Hopefully within the year.
Within the year, but it's
Hopefully.
already, we're half through. We're
But
halfway through the
we
year.
also have existing studies that's been done in the past. We just need to qualify them.
Yeah.
One of the alarming in the study that I've seen is that ang sinasabi nila dito, those who know the Bataan nuclear power plant or nuclear power plant for that matter, yung mga experts na mga tao, wala na ngayon dito. They've retired already because
Yeah.
you have to make, this was a long time ago
Yes.
when this was built. Yung mga tao natin noon, wala na, nagre-retire. So we have to
But we
retrain,
have
get
enough,
more
yeah.
experts.
But we have enough experts around, di ba?
Not on nuclear, not locally.
Yeah.
Not locally.
Not even
Because
Marco Wangco?
Because we don't have a plant running right. You need experience to actually be doing this plant. And
Yeah.
you can't really just do a hit or miss. This is a nuclear
Okay.
power plant.
But we can't also be forever studying.
No, we can, admittedly. Yes. And that's the first thing I look at when I sat down on this position. Where do we go with Bataan nuclear power plant?
Yeah.
But also, look at the impact also. Is the risk actually worth it
Yeah.
with the benefits that we'll be getting?
Yeah, oo. Well, I guess what I'm saying really is just make a decision soon, di ba?
It's
siguro naman
make a
within-
decision soon, pero what I'm also saying is that one nuclear power plant, okay, might not make a difference in our overall supply,
Yeah.
number one,
Okay.
and basically on the pricing.
Oo.
So it's not a matter of running Bataan nuclear power plant, because if we want substantial dent on our bills because of nuclear,
Yeah.
then we have to go for probably 5 or 6
Yeah.
Bataan nuclear power
Yeah.
plants.
Well, let me make it clear. Then make a decision either way, di ba?
Then it
Make that
becomes-
recommendation
yes.
para matapos na.
Yes.
Di ba?
But going nuclear is not
Yeah.
as easy as flicking your finger, because it's not BNPP only. It's now whether the country will go on a nuclear, basically allow nuclear power plants, not just BNPP.
Yeah.
Because kung isa lang, it will not make a big dent.
Yes, yes.
Kung if we go nuclear, it has to be
Dapat
about 5 or
marami,
6.
oo.
So
Yes.
it becomes an
It's
even
almost a
trickier policy.
Yeah, policy.
Because
Oo.
it's no longer just BNPP, it's a nuclear policy now.
Yeah, oo. But then, yun na nga make a decision na lang either way, di ba?
Well, we
Para
have to,
matapos na to. I mean, baka naman abutin pa ng next administration. But anyway, so Secretary, so so right now we're looking at just building more power plants. Then you're saying that of course it's private sector. What do we do about EPIRA? There's just too much criticism about it already.
I attended a hearing yesterday about EPIRA because we had focus group discussion on EPIRA, and all the comments we've submitted to Congress, and certain bills came out because of that focus group. Ang daming bills. I could count about a dozen of them. And some were saying we should totally scrap it. Some are saying that, we should amend it. And some are saying we should give it a chance. Okay.
So
and
what does
let
the
it
Secretary
correct.
of Energy say?
Well, as far as we're concerned, okay, the EPIRA, the basic essentials of EPIRA is there. Okay. Kaya lang siguro, it needs to be fine-tuned. And the fine-tuning probably will not even be on the EPIRA side. Okay. Because if I have to push a bill, if I have to push and ask lawmakers to prioritize a certain bill, it's on actually a bill that makes power projects of national interest. So that if there is a conflict between a local concern or a sectoral concern against a power concern, and this is considered as national of national interest, as long as it's branded as or certified as of national interest, we need it right away. Then, ang hiningi ko lang dito is that, for example, kung nahirapan kami sa NCIP, sa LGU, okay, kung nahirapan kami sa other agencies, kung po pwede, if there is a conflict, mauuna ang national interest natin. Because I'm not saying, because I came from the LGU. Ang mga LGU naman may mga concerns sila. DNR has, they have valid concerns why they're actually opposing some power plants. Pero ang sinasabi naman namin is that if it basically affects the entire country, then I think we should set it aside and put a priority on these projects and give it a go. We're not saying that we will do away with all the permits. We're just saying in our proposal, ang sinasabi lang namin, if NCIP, for example, or DNR, we can't get a permit, in lieu of their permits, the President can probably sign for it.
Can you give us an example of one LGU that is opposed to building a power plant in their area, and what are the reasons?
Well, it's not even LGU. No, it's NGOs, for example.
NGOs, okay. So what NGO
One
and
example,
what area?
One example is basically Redondo Power in Subic Bay. That's a 600 megawatts scheduled sana yan for 2015-2016. That's not there anymore because pinagralihan ng tao. There were groups that rallied against it. Some LGUs also actually were against it.
What kind of a power plant would it have been?
Coal.
Coal. Oh, okay. Kaya
Okay.
boy coal.
No.
Okay.
Nag-rally sila lahat. Okay. Sabi nga nila, dapat kinausap yon ng kung sino man. Unfortunately, naabutan ko na yan. Actually, it was on the courts already when I came in. And then, it's in the Supreme Court right now. And yun nga ang sinasabi ko parati, kung LGU ang concern dito, pwede naman kausapin si Mayor.
Yeah.
Tingnan natin ano bang concern nyo.
Yeah.
Baka ma-address natin. If it's NCIP, the same. If it's DNR, it's the same. But when it's the Supreme Court, talagang wala tayong magagawa because they really have to study that.
So how long has it been in the Supreme Court?
When I came in, it was just about to go to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Galing pa ng
Sorry, please
Court of
remind us
Appeals,
when did you
about a year
take
and a half
over?
ago.
A year and a half. And it's still there.
It's still there.
And there is no sign that there will be a ruling
There is no
soon
sign.
or-
I'm quite sure Supreme Court is really looking into the importance of this project as well. But I think we just simply have to wait for a decision from Supreme Court on what to do with that.
Okay.
Merong iba naman, and I'd like to thank the Mayor of Pagbilao and the Barangay Chairman also, where this particular project is also being done. Kasi medyo nahirapan din sila kumuha ng permit. At ang sinasabi ko naman, I always tell everybody, the proponents, that listen, we'll help you. Pero I think you also have to help yourself, okay, sell your project to the local government. Kasi may concern din sila. But, you know,
What was the concern of the local government at that
I
time?
think not only environmental, siguro financials also. Okay, tinitingnan nila, where's the financials here? When will it happen? Okay, just so many concerns on the LGU. Okay, but that's been settled because the mayor agreed already. Now it's in the hands of the proponent kung ang delay ba is sa kanya talaga or doon kay mayor. And then we have problems with some with not with local governments but with the people themselves. For example, in Mindanao, hydropower plants, okay, we want to expand that. Kaya lang pag in-expand namin, nilakasan yung tubig, magbabaha sa Balui Plains. So pag magbabaha, there's a community there, a large barangay that will be flooded. So ang first question that went into my mind was, bakit naman tayo nagtayo ng hydro dyan? Alam niyo may tao, tapos nagtayo tayo ng hydro, babahain. Well, the thing is, when they built the hydro, walang tao doon. Okay. Nagkaroon ng tao ngayon. So now we're building that, pero the mayor and the barangay chairman saying, can you do this for us? You build us this infrastructure which is needed by the barangay. So
What infrastructure?
Health center,
Health center.
some other barangay needs, okay, probably a gym, or some other things that they need in their barangay. Nothing to do with power,
Yeah.
but it will help
Yeah.
simmer down the opposition. So,
Okay.
mga
Pero hindi pa rin marirelocate yung mga taong yan.
hindi ma-relocate.
So,
Gawa lang ng flood control.
Oh, okay.
Okay. To allow us to build a flood control, we have to negotiate with them. Otherwise, sayang yung 50 megawatts na madadagdag. So
Yeah.
these are problems every now and then that come up.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with them. And if there are delays, that's been delayed for so many years already. If that is delayed, then everybody suffers in a sense. Tapos lahat nagre-reklamo, bakit kulang ng supply? Pero pag sinasabi namin, hindi kami makadiretso, meron pa siya. Di ayusin nyo si Mayor. Okay? Ayusin nyo yung mga nagprotesta. Lahat-lahat yan. That's why ang tawag sa amin minsan is hindi na Department of Energy.
Ano?
Because we talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Department of everything.
Everything. Oo nga, no? Why do you talk to every... Okay. You mentioned LGUs. You were governor of Leyte for quite a while. Three terms, right?
3 terms, that's right.
And that is one of the criticisms of you by some senators, no, that you're so focused now on politics in Leyte, for example, and not enough on the Department of Energy or its concerns.
Well, number one, I'm from Leyte. So I go home, okay, maybe every 2 weeks, overnight. I'm not sure how that can be spelled as politicking. Okay, there's a governor there. He's an able governor. Happens to be my brother. So he can handle it. Okay, I don't need to babysit him. My focus now is this job. I'm losing my voice over my job. But during Yolanda, you can't help it but go home because I'm also a victim. You know, ang bahay ko nawala ng bubong. Mother ko was living in the municipal hall for so many months. Even up to now, wala siyang bahay because she refuses to build her house until other houses are actually built. So in a sense, we're also victims. And if we go there, I don't think it's politicking. It's basically a natural reaction. But then you snap out of it, and then you go back because you have a job to perform. And that's what I did.
Okay. What are you going to do in 2016 when President Aquino steps down?
Well, actually, the first question was, what was I going to do at the end of my term, 2013? And I was happily going back to the private sector.
As what?
Not so many people know that my wife now runs a BPO with maybe 4,000 people, employees. And that's really been, you know, that company's been there for like 25 years now. Okay, even before I went into politics, it was being run by my brother. Sabi ko, palit siguro, palit tayo. Okay. Until the president asked me to take this position. So ako naman, you know, I have so many friends in the private sector. Mga negosyante rin. Sabi niya, ba't mo naman tinanggap yan? Energy pa. Ang sagot ko naman, mahirap naman kung lahat tayo magpapakayaman lang. And then, walang magsiserve sa government. And then we end up with, I don't know, vacuum. Okay, or mga taong hindi naman nandun ang puso sa pagsiservisyo.
Okay.
And it's a way of saying that, hey, you can make money, you can focus on your business, but if nobody's going to take care of the basic things in this country, what's the future of your business in a sense? So it's one way of actually paying back.
Yeah. But come 2016, when President Aquino steps down, then you will leave government also. So you'll help run that BPO?
Ngayon, actually, my focus is just on my job. I really cannot focus on...
You haven't thought about what you'll do?
I haven't. So many things on my plate right now that that's the last thing I want to think of what will happen in 2016.
Do you consider yourself a good manager? Because, you know, again, one of the criticisms by some senators, one of the, ano bang sinabi? Hindi lousy eh. What term was used about you, about the kind of work you do as a manager?
Well, siguro naman, I cannot create a business from scratch and it will last for 25 years if I was a bad manager. But at the same time, ang sinasabi ko naman sa mga reaction is that, you know, if there's one thing I learned, Pia, in government service, pagpasok ko, okay, ganito yan eh. In my last term, I was unopposed. Second to the last term, almost unopposed because I had an opponent at that time. And I got about 500,000 votes, and my opponent got, I don't know, maybe 5,000, 6,000 votes.
Sino yun? Sino yung opponent mo?
A local person in Leyte. But sabi ko, 500,000 against 5,000, di ako makatulog. Ang tanong ko, ano bang kasalanan ginawa ko? Bakit yung 5,000 di bumoto sa akin? And if there's one thing I learned here in government service is you really cannot please everybody. Meron talagang hindi masaya.
Ayaw sa'yo.
Oo. Bali-baliktarin mo. And I've accepted that already. And ang ginagawa ko na lang dito every time merong ganyan is I try to do my job better. Because that's the only thing you can do at this point.
Is it a thankless job?
Very much.
Thankless? Very
Thankless
much,
job.
yes.
Okay. This job is thankless job. You do the right thing, somebody will get hurt, somebody will complain. Okay. It's energy, basically. Well, even if it's not energy, talk about health. There will be complaints because it's really difficult to cover everybody, okay, in these large portfolios. Even when I was a governor, hindi naman lahat kaya mong serbisyuhan. Pag natulungan mo yung isa magrereklamo. Okay? But, what do? We just try to do it better the next time. Or every day, that's what we do. Do it better than the last day.
Okay. We have 7 minutes to go, Secretary Petilia. Are you going to run again? I mean, I know you said earlier, no, you would consider going back to the private sector, but would you go back to politics? Local politics?
At this point in time, as I said, I'm even going to private sector. What am I going to do? What are expansion? I'm not in touch with them anymore. Okay, people are running it already, but my focus really is just on the job that I'm doing right now, especially supply, pricing. That's a bit more difficult to deal with, but there's something we can do with the supply in the next few years. Yeah. Actually, Pia, the reason why it's a bit sinasabi ko, I have a lot of things in my plate right now is because, we're not really looking at 2015 for power or 2016. Okay, it takes 4 years to build a plant. We're looking at 2017, 2018 now, even to the extent of 2020. That's why I'm sitting down with co-ops. I'm going to sit down with Meralco. Ano ba ang plano niyo? Kayo kasi ang bumibili. What are your plans? What are your gaps? Can we consolidate them and ask, a power producer to build a plant with your gaps? Do they know about these gaps? I know you're negotiating with them, but do they have the entire picture? Because if they don't, mahirapan sila magtayo ng planta. although plants are being constructed right now. So yun ang tinitingnan natin ngayon, 2017, 2018, yan ang usapin ngayon. 2015 is you live with what plants are coming in. So kung makikita mo, it's the next administration also that we're looking at. Because if we only look at this administration, kasi yung iba, yung tinisip parati, our target is by 2016, ano bang accomplishment natin? Sabi ko, with energy, I can't think that way.
Yeah.
I have to think about ano ang maabutan ng next administration. Okay? And what kind of problems are they going to be faced with that we can actually resolve right now? We're really moving forward at this point, looking forward at this point.
Yeah.
So mag-isip on what will happen in 2016, parang nahihilo na ako sa ngayon pa lang.
When you talk about the supply, not problem, supply challenge, do you think you can resolve it, at least a bulk of it, before you step down?
Again,
or at least, lay the groundwork, have those plants already being built by then?
Ganito kasi yan, okay? Under our law, again, it's a private sector who builds a plant. Okay, we come up with policy to actually make sure that mabilis ang pagtayo nila.
And then you breathe down their necks, no? Para mabilis.
Well, we're at their necks every time, no? Kaya nga ang sinasabi ko, isang bill sana which will fast track, okay, the permitting of all these things. Kasi kailangan ng batas hindi po pwedeng administrative lang Kailangan merong magsasabi na kung hindi gumagalaw ng 45 days yan, let's ask the president to sign in lieu, and then it will move. So that's one thing.
45 days, matagal na yun, ha?
Well,
Or you're just being kind?
I'm just putting an arbitrary number at this point, number of days, okay? Kasi pwede naman concurrent yan lahat
Yeah.
But anyway, they're building plants, okay? At sinasabi ko naman, private sector. Pag hindi kayo, if you don't build fast enough, the government will come in. Because there is also a provision in IPIRA where the government can actually, NPC, National NAPOCOR, can actually go into generation. But I have to recommend to the President that there is a shortage or a crisis. The President will issue a state of emergency, and Congress, both House and Senate, will come together and give the President the power to actually come up with a power plant. It's a long process, and it's also a strong declaration, state of emergency,
Yeah.
power crisis.
But of course, we don't want to get to that
We don't
point,
want
right?
to get into that, and that's why I'm trying to say, is there a way that we can also fine-tune IPIRA whereby you don't have to declare a national emergency to build a plant? Perhaps a stopgap measure just to cover the delays. Pero pag wala na yung delay, nandiyan yung mga planta, this particular plant will retreat. In other words, it will not meddle with the market. So, a bit of fine-tuning na pwede sigurong gawin. But this is really up to we can give them technical advices, but it's up to Congress and Senate to actually pass these bills. But we are here as resource people.
Okay. Final word, Secretary Padilla?
Final words is that energy is always a problem, not only in this country, everywhere. I know I talk to the ministers, other ministers, sila rin. They're also worried. They're also planning. They're also worried about blackouts and everything. In fact, nagkaka-blackout na sa iba, even in developed countries. California, for example, had their share of blackouts. Korea, last year, they had a very tight reserve as well. So lahat ng titipid. So it's the same in our country, and we're doing everything we can to prep up all players to make sure that everybody is in the ball game. Okay, our job is to coordinate, but really, generation, all these things are actually market-driven at this point. We're just here to come up with policies to encourage them to produce more power plants.
Thank you very much for joining us, Secretary Ikot Petilla of the Department of Energy. Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
When we come back, Attorney Alvin Tangcol, resigned MRT3 General Manager, joins us. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
That's not true, no? That's not true. So, paano ako kikita? And in fact, hindi ko nga alam na nandoon si Mr. Soriano. And then when I learned, I asked him to divest. And he divested. So there is no connection whatsoever with any of the directors of the joint venture to me. It was done in the proper manner. above board, transparent, there was no hanky-panky, and the decision of the BAC is a collegial decision and not the decision of only one person. And no person can wield influence over the decisions of the BAC.
Welcome back to News.PH. Joining us in this segment, Attorney Al Vitangcol III, resigned, MRT3 General Manager. Good evening, Attorney Vitangcol. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good evening.
Attorney, can you tell us first what your professional background is?
Well, I completed my civil engineering degree at the University of the Philippines.
What year was that?
And I took up computer science at the De La Salle University. And then finally, I had my degree in law. And I became a lawyer in 2003. And I did some sort of legal practice. I established a law firm. And I also established an information technology firm.
An
So
IT firm?
I used
like,
to manage two
yeah.
firms
Ah,
prior to my stint in
IT
the
firm, what
government.
did you do? What was that IT firm? What did it do?
It's a law and technology fusion firm. We develop software for legal applications.
Okay, so but you were you are a civil engineer by profession.
Yes, I used to be an independent consultant. We review contracts for highways, big engineering projects, and the like.
Okay, so engineer by profession and then lawyer also. Okay. Your appointment to the MRT was for what really? What was the reason kung bakit kayo kinuha mula sa PPP at nilagay sa MRT?
Basically, I have an experience in managing big projects, big civil engineering projects, and also I have a background in transport engineering
Yeah.
and highway engineering, and also my management background. So
Oo.
I believe all of these things, if you put them together, would be good enough for somebody to handle
Yeah.
an office like the
What was that
MRT3
big
management.
engineering project that you managed?
I was connected before with a French engineering consultant. So in this particular firm, we act as the independent consultant between, let's say, a private sector and a government sector project.
What project was that?
Here in the Philippines, I was a part of the team that reviewed the Star Tollway project.
Okay.
And we also have some other projects abroad.
All right. So Star Tollway dito sa Pilipinas.
Yes,
No other
yes.
project but that.
No.
Okay. So would you say that was the reason kung bakit kayo kinuha sa MRT? But you were
probably.
with the PPP.
Yes, yes.
When did you join the PPP?
I joined the PPP way back in 2011.
Okay. Sino kumuha sa inyo para to join the PPP?
It was then Executive Director Phil Torrio.
Phil Torrio.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you join the MRT? Who picked you? Who got you from the PPP?
Actually, it was the same person, Professor Phil Torrio, who endorsed me to the DOTC.
Okay.
Since at that time he was leaving PPP and he's going back to Canada.
Okay. Endorsed you to the DOTC meaning?
Yes.
Who was that? Secretary Mar?
Yes, at the time. Secretary
Ping-
Mar Rojas
Mar.
at the time.
Mar Rojas. Okay. So as presidential appointee, obviously that means your papers are signed by the president. It was the president who appointed you.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the strength of a recommendation by Secretary Mar Rojas.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The president said, yesterday, he said, and I quote, "He looks vaguely familiar, but I don't really know him that well." But he added that he let his secretaries decide as to whom they want to work with. You never met the president yourself, or you met him at certain points, or what?
I met him on only a few occasions, but we never had any discussion.
Okay. Is your resignation, although still to be accepted by the president, was that meant for damage control?
No, not really.
No?
It was meant to be an irrevocable resignation, and I simply wanted to go back to being a private citizen instead of a government official.
Gusto mo na lang matapos na itong lahat ng gulo?
Yes, essentially to have a peace of mind.
Oo. Yeah. Kinausap ka ba? Anybody in government? Did anyone talk to you about resigning or going back to the private sector? Did anybody talk to you about this?
None.
No one?
No one.
No one told you that, it might be a good idea if you resign first or...
Well,
Step aside.
there were some advices from friends, but nobody from the high officials of the government.
None from Secretary Mar Rojas or anyone from the
I
Office
never
of the
talked to
President?
Secretary Marojas
Okay.
regarding this.
Okay. But some friends from government.
Yes, yes.
Who in government?
Well, I cannot disclose.
But what did they tell you?
Well, they told me probably it's a good time if you would resign and avoid all of these troubles.
Okay. This was because of the allegations of the Czech ambassador.
Yes, yes.
Okay. When did they talk to you about resigning?
Actually, several times. Probably from the time that the extortion issue came out in July of 2013, there were several people who were telling me, why don't you just resign and leave public service so that you will be insulated from all these problems and you can have a peace of mind. So a lot of people were telling me that.
Okay. And you got to that point that you decided that, yes, I am going to take that path. When did that happen? When did you decide that? On Monday lang?
Last Monday.
Just this Monday?
Yeah, this
Just
Monday.
this Monday. Okay. What was the point of no return?
Well, when the column of Jairus Bondo came out, okay, although most of the statements that he placed there are questionable, okay, then the Department of Transportation and Communications, they sent me a relief order, okay, stating that they would be doing an administrative inquiry on that particular matter. And so I said, well, instead of a temporary relief, it might be better
I'll offer my
if I would
resignation
be
na lang.
resigning. So I filed my
Yeah.
resignation.
Which particular column of Jairus are you referring to?
The one
And he's been writing about this for so long. So
Yeah.
which one?
the one that came out last Monday.
On Monday, just this
Yeah.
Monday. Okay. Which particular line there did you feel was the one that made you decide to go?
He said there that I awarded a 500 million contract to an uncle-in-law, which is actually not true.
It was the DOTC.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Well, you mentioned your uncle-in-law. How long have you and your wife been married?
Well, 15 years.
15 years, okay. And how exactly is Arturo Soriano your wife's uncle?
He is the brother of
Her father?
the mother.
Brother of the mother.
Yeah.
Okay. But how long have you known him? Ever since you were married or just recently?
Barely. Probably not even once a year. Only during joyous occasions.
Yung mga family reunions.
Yeah.
But you knew of him when you and your wife first got
Yeah,
married?
yeah.
Okay. But when did he at any point ever talk business with you? Meaning
No.
anything to do with the MRT, anything to do with PH trams?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Never. Wala siyang binabanggit sa inyo?
No.
Okay. When did you, you said that that you told him that it
Yeah.
would be best for him to divest. When was that exactly?
Yes. That was, let me look at my notes.
Yes,
I
go
placed
ahead.
here all the
Yes. The dates.
that was during the first week of September of 2012.
First week of September 2012.
Yes.
This was after the proposal was made?
No,
Or when?
no. You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't be able to understand why that happened.
You know what? Let's go through this. Sige,
Okay.
go ahead. No, kayo na po magbasa. Sige po.
Okay.
Yung chronology.
Okay. On July 25 of 2012, okay, MRT Corporation Chairman Tomas De Leon sent a letter to the OTC saying that they will procure the maintenance provider at a more favorable timeline and significantly lower cost. This is because the contract of Sumitomo is about to expire on October 19 of the same year.
Okay.
So this is July, okay, barely a few months. A month after, August 22 of 2012, PH Trams and Com Builders and Technology, they formed a joint venture agreement between them with the purpose of providing an unsolicited proposal
Yeah.
to MRT Corporation.
Oo. Did you know at the time that they were doing that?
No.
No, okay.
This is only later when I got hold of the documents. Then on August 22 of 2012, Com Builders and Technology sent a letter to the OTC through Undersecretary Lutilia and also to me, inviting us to attend the presentation that they will be making to MRT Corporation. So they did the presentation on August 29 of 2012.
Yeah.
Okay? Now,
They were the ones in partnership with PH Trans, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So at that time, you already knew, was that October 2012? At that time, you already knew na yung uncle-in-law niyo.
no, not yet, not yet.
Ah, hindi pa?
Not yet.
He was not there at that time?
No.
During the presentation?
I did not attend the presentation. I only received the letter.
Okay.
And it was signed by Mr. Juan Bacar, the chairman of Com Builders and Technology.
Okay.
Okay? And then, on August 31 of 2012, PH Trams, CBNT, they sent a letter to Chairman De Leon requesting for an inspection of the MRT system. And Chairman De Leon wrote a note there, okay? And I will read the note. He says, Al, please provide the necessary assistance in view of the expiration of the Sumitomo contract.
Okay.
Thanks, Tommy De Leon,
Okay.
8/31/12.
Okay.
So, we allowed them to visit MRT3 system
Yeah.
and
Okay.
make an inspection.
Oo.
And then at that time, since we were talking about the company, I found out that Mr. Arturo Soriano is an incorporator of PH Trams. Only at that time.
Only at the time. Pero hindi siya kasama doon sa, sa inspection.
Hindi. Based on the
Ah,
papers.
dahil sa usapan nyo lang at sa mga papeles.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So,
But, yeah.
I found out that he is there. Okay?
Okay.
So, that was August 31.
Yes. Okay.
So, I contacted him during the first week of September. And then I told him that
How did you get his number? Through your wife?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That it will be improper if he will remain as an incorporator or as a director of PH Trams,
Yeah.
since they are intending to do business with us. Okay?
Okay.
So
Well, why
on
did you tell him?
September 10,
Yeah. Why did you tell him to divest? Why not, you know, divest lang? Bakit hindi? Wag nang ituloy. Bakit divest lang? You wanted the contract. You wanted the project to push through.
no, that is not the intent. The intent is only to take him out from the equation, considering that the group, they are making negotiations with MRT Corporation, okay, and they might be selected there. Okay?
Okay.
So, on September 10 of 2012, Mr. Soriano executed a deed of assignment to a fellow director of PH Trams. So, by September 10, he is officially out
Yeah.
of the company
Deed of assignment meaning he divested. To whom?
to Mr. Marlo de la Cruz.
Marlo de la Cruz.
Yes.
Okay. Marlo de la Cruz is also was it the president of, let me get my,
He is the chairman of PH Trams.
yes, the chairman of PH Trans, but he is also the chairman he is the company representative of APT Global, which took over after PH
Yes,
Trans, right?
yes, that's correct.
Okay. So
That's correct.
did you think that there was a problem with something like this, with that kind of an arrangement?
I
Kumbaga,
didn't
ang
see it at
nangyari-
that time, okay?
Hindi, pero parang kumbaga nangyari, parehong kumpanya lang to, parang nagpalit lang ng pangalan.
No, I didn't see it at the time, okay? Because during that time, APT Global is not yet there, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't even know that it would exist in the future,
Uh-huh.
okay? So, anyway, so on September 10 of 2012, he divested, okay? And then on October 4 of 2012, MRTC Chairman Mr. De Leon wrote to DOTC Secretary Abaya, and he said that the responsibility for procuring the maintenance provider for MRT3 was transferred to DOTC and not
Not to
MRTC's
not MRT.
responsibility
Yeah.
way back in November 24 of 2010
Okay.
through a letter to then Secretary Ping De Jesus.
Okay. Sir, I'm sorry. I hope you don't mind, but we need to really wrap this up and go very swiftly,
Okay.
Sayang kasi late kasi kayo dumating. But anyway, there's an interesting twist here because one of the incorporators of PH Trams is this Wilson de Vera,
Yes.
who is the same guy that Ambassador Richter of the Czech ambassador said tried to extort money from him, right?
Yes,
that's
that's correct.
correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Were you aware of this Mr. Wilson de Vera? Had you ever met him before that?
During this time that they were making the presentation for MRTC.
Okay, and at no point did he ever, as much, I mean, were you aware that at any point he had gone to the Czech ambassador and asked for 30
No,
million?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. But you are familiar with him?
Only during this time.
Only during this time.
I met him here.
Okay. Was he the Liberal Party candidate for mayor of Calasiao, Pangasinan, 2010?
Yes, later on.
No, 2010.
No, in 2013.
2013.
Yeah, 2013.
Okay. Okay.
So at this time, 2012, the extortion issue, okay, nobody knows about it yet. There was no exposure from the media. There was no word from the ambassador. The ambassador, okay, made that particular statement a year after, in July 2013. So it's really a year away. So
Yeah.
had he made that particular statement way back in July of 2012, then of course all of these things we will put a stop to it.
Okay. Is your resignation in exchange for the ambassadors just leaving quietly?
What do you mean by that, Pia?
Is he going to still testify against you?
That I do not know, but as far as I'm concerned, I filed a perjury case against him. So he must appear during the requisite hearing.
Okay.
For
Your,
preliminary
your
investigation.
position is that he has no evidence against you, right?
Yes.
Evidence meaning a taped conversation or witnesses who will say that there was an extortion attempt.
Yes. Actually, the witness that he was stating, Mr. Manolo Maralit, even refuted his claim. Mr. Maralit said, no, it's not true. The ambassador is lying.
Okay, we have to end. Just my one last question. Didn't it ring alarm bells for you, that a company that had just been founded 2 months before it won the contract had won that contract, and then afterwards, PH Trams, and then when the other company took over, yung APT Global, hindi maganda ang pagtakbo, ang pag-maintain ng MRT. Is there a problem with that, you think?
Yes,
Because
there is.
there was a
There is.
series of mishaps, hindi ba? Ang daming aksidente sa MRT, hindi ba?
Not really that much, no? Not really that much.
Isn't it one accident too many?
Well, accidents, no? And even train defects, it's common in railways, okay? But what is uncommon is if there will be fatalities, okay? Or major accidents. But so far, all those accidents are minor incidents.
They're minor.
Yeah, they are minor
Okay.
incidents.
I wish we had more time, but we've really run out of time. So, well, Attorney, I hope we can continue this interview some other time. Thank you very much for joining us now, Attorney Alvin Tongkol III. Thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.
Thank you.